Good afternoon, everybody. This is a live severe weather briefing with severe weather threat starting to ramp up across northeastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota. You can see a little cumulus field beginning to develop across far north central Nebraska. And if there is a limiting factor with this setup, it's probably going to be the moisture. Right now, it looks like dew points are in the mid 50s largely. But you can definitely see the RAP forecast instability appears to be coming to fruition. That's it in the upper right. And I think that if I were to target anywhere, it'd be well to the west of Yankton, right along the Nebraska South Dakota border. The key is to really get some pooled moisture along that west to east boundary. Some dew points into the mid 50s to upper 50s would be supportive of potentially even a tornado threat later on this afternoon. And the wind shear is definitely supportive of tornadoes with greater than about 200 0 to 1 kilometer effective felicities. But it's the thermodynamics that could be a limiting factor. I think it could even be a little bit on the South Dakota side, a little bit closer to that warm front where you can get some easterly winds located there. That's the RAP analysis, but I do think you're going to have to head a little bit further west. Basically, a subtle surface low is located across north central Nebraska, the eastern sand hills there, maybe near the O'Neill area is where that subtle surface low is located. And just to the north east and to the east of that surface low is where the most favorable wind shear is going to be. Looking at satellite imagery here, you can definitely see that cumulus field starting to bubble across north central Nebraska, right in the vicinity of that surface low. Can also show you the wind shear starting to ramp up as well. Effective helicity is greater than about a 100 0 to 1 kilometer shear. And bulk shear is going to be increasing greater than 40 knots out here because of those easterlies at the surface largely. And you've got about 45 knots here coming in at 500 out of the northwest. This is a northwest, definitely a textbook northwesterly flow event. And it does look like northeastern Nebraska is where the most likely area for tornadoes is going to be. There you can see some of those easterly winds at the low levels. 850s starting to increase above about 20 knots, 15 to 20 knots out of the southwest. But if the storms are turning southeast into that 50-knot southwesterly wind, then you're definitely going to be ramping that up just a little bit more. We can also look at LCLs here. And here are the LCLs. Not bad, actually. Right around 2,000 into the target area. A little bit lower on the South Dakota side as well. So if a storm can break this cap, I do think that there is a small but non-zero chance of a tornado right within that zone. Right along the river, right along the South Dakota-Nebraska border where you have those easterly winds at about 5 to 10 knots. Right on the northern gradient, too, of that instability there across northeastern Nebraska into southeastern South Dakota. And forecasting out with time, here is 21C. Notice how the Cape doesn't mix out, but instead you get kind of some pooled moisture up there. The RAP doesn't break the cap in northeast Nebraska, and it does have some elevated storms moving into western and northwestern Iowa. Those have already started to fire. Just some elevated convection just ripping from west to east across northwestern Iowa. Could get a couple lightning strikes out of that, but I don't think that those storms are going to become surface-based. But really this zone here across northeastern Nebraska, far southeastern South Dakota, right in there are those easterly surface winds at about 10 knots, right along the northern gradient of that strongest surface-based instability. That's really where I'm watching for the development of towering cumulus and eventually supercell storms. You can see this little Q field right now across, well, just to the south of O'Neill, basically right underneath that subtle surface low there. That's where storms should develop, and a little bit close to that northwest to southeast oriented cloud band there. That's associated with that greater mid and upper level flow in northeastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota. I'm definitely keeping an eye on Thursday because I think that Kansas or southern Nebraska, maybe northern Kansas, right along the Nebraska border there, Hastings down toward Hill City, could be pretty active with a more substantial severe weather threat, and there already is a slight risk out there in the day 3 on Thursday. So I definitely do plan on activating storm chase mode out there. We'll break down Thursday as well. And I also want to break down the tornado that happened in the Chicago suburbs. That's the and it just was rated an EF3 so far, a low-end EF3. Some of that damage in the Naperville area through about Darien along I-55. Some pretty substantial damage out there. That's the strongest tornado in DuPage County since the 1970s. The strongest one since then. So it's been a long time since they've had strong tornadoes in the suburbs of Chicago. The Plainview tornado in the early 90s, of course, is another example of a big-time tornado out there as well. I have heard that there was a report of one fatality. It looks like there was no loss of life initially, just injuries and a lot of damage. But now it does look like there was a fatality from that tornado, very sadly. But still an incredible job by meteorologists, National Weather Service as well, news media, warning that storm. I know that the sirens sounded about 20 minutes before the arrival of that storm. And I've seen a lot of comments that it was a QLCS tornado, but it sure looks like a full-blown supercell storm to me. I'm going to pull some of the archive radar data off the Radar Omega app and do a big case study on that event. There was a very brief tornado to the southeast of Des Moines near the Pella, Iowa area. I saw Isaac Slushy there, had some good drone footage of that tornado. But really that main supercell formed near the Davenport area, may have formed across eastern Iowa and then slid off to the east-southeast. And then once it got to the Naperville area, it just went completely nuts. Probably feeding off of some of the other storms there, maybe some outflow, accelerating that event. Also an upper-level jet streak was there. It did look like a textbook QLCS at initial glance, but upon further analysis, I do think that was likely a supercell storm embedded within there, right along that border. And you hate to see all of that damage, but you also expect when an EF3 goes through such a populated area that there's going to be immense loss of life. But it just shows that people are doing the right thing. They have a severe weather safety plan in place. National Weather Service meteorologists are predicting these things way in advance. And definitely those tornado warning lead times in excess of 20 minutes are certainly a big deal. But here you can see today, this is the forecast HRRR for 20Z. And interestingly, in this case, the HRRR seems to not be underdoing dew points and overdoing mixing. This is kind of an interesting northwesterly flow event with some pooling along a warm front oriented right along the Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota border. And it seems like the HRRR may do a pretty good job, this smaller scale model, at picking out the pooling along boundaries, whether it be warm fronts, whether it be stationary fronts out there, outflow boundaries. But the HRRR does seem to do a pretty good job with pooling of that moisture. And here you've got a 58, 59 dew point streaming in from the east-southeast, so those 10-knot low-level easterlies. A little bit of a dry punch as well coming in here into northern Nebraska with that 49 dew point. And this is at 20Z, so this would be 3 p.m. Central Time, so that's right about now. So a good exercise is to take a look at the surface map. Should always do that anyway. And let's see how the model compares. Usually the HRRR isn't a very good model with this kind of thing. But in this case, you got a 57 in Yankton. You got a 56, 57 out here across Sioux City, far southeastern tip of South Dakota. O'Neill then behind the surface low with that northwesterly wind at about 5 knots, 92 over 53, drying out. It is possible that there is a dry punch coming in with those upper 40s dew points just to the south of O'Neill there, but we can't be guaranteed due to the lack of surface obs. But then you head on over to the HRRR, and it's got a 58 dew point there in Yankton. As of, there's 20Z. 20Z has a 57 in Yankton, so it's actually nailed it according to the latest surface map. O'Neill with that 51 dew point out of the northwest as well. So it does look like, though, that the HRRR is underdoing some of those dew points across central and eastern Nebraska. So it likely is overmixing central and eastern Nebraska here with those mid-50s dew points there, low to mid-50s dew points. And then you get the pooling along that warm front off to the north. And so far, it looks like the surface map is looking quite accurate. This is at 4 p.m. It does look like the HRRR might be overdoing those dew points, maybe near the Sioux City area by about 4 degrees. So it is possible that here over the next hour or so, we could mix out some of those dew points a little bit more on the South Dakota side. But right along that warm front, right along the northern gradient of Cape there, it sure does look favorable for supercells and even tornadoes if these storms can develop. There is a pretty stout capping inversion out there. looking at satellite imagery, many of the cumulus field looks quite flat so far just to the south of O'Neill. And you'll certainly need those storms to initiate in this well-mixed environment right near the core of the surface low. And then if they can migrate a little north into that instability gradient up here and then turn southeast, east-southeast, then I do think that there is a chance of even a tornado out there. Let's look at the sounding near Yankton at 22Z, which is 5 p.m. It's showing an 82/62 temperature dew point spread, about 20 degrees. A lot of low-level cape, easterlies up to about 1 kilometer, flipping around to southwesterly, and then you get those northwesterlies up at 500 to the upper levels of the troposphere, and that's going to cause these storms to turn right and to turn into this southerly low-level jet at about 1 kilometer southwesterly at 10 knots. So if you have a due south-southeasterly storm motion at 15 knots, that creates a storm relative low-level jet of 25 to 30 knots out there with this sounding. So that's not a bad shaped photograph there for a southeasterly moving storm. Your critical angle is quite close to 90 degrees. Likely going to be pulling in quite a bit of streamwise vorticity. Your shear vector is 20 to 30 knots in length, between 0 and 2 kilometers there. And you've got more than sufficient bulk shear for a supercell storm or two. But really the question is, can the cap break? Can you get a supercell storm within that pooled environment? The HRRR fires likely elevated storms across northwestern Iowa there. I think that the greater likelihood of surface-based storms is on the Nebraska side, but you never know. The HRRR does show the more robust storms across northwestern Iowa right now. Not as much in the way of a cumulus field out there, a surface-based Q field. There's a lot of mid-level cloud debris out there, a lot of evidence that those storms that are already in northwestern Iowa are elevated, but it's possible that you could get the initiation of some surface-based storms back here in northeastern Nebraska, west of Yankton as well, right along the Missouri River Valley there. Maybe you'll get some funneling of that moisture up the Missouri River Valley from east to west there, right along that South Dakota-Nebraska border. And this is the 18Z HRRR that we're analyzing here. And it does look like it tries to fire a surface-based storm very near, just to the south of Yankton, across far northeastern Nebraska. This is at 6 p.m. Central Time. I know Mike Lashendro with the Omaha Twister Chasers is heading north on I-29 right now. I recommended a target maybe just to the west of Yankton, maybe a little bit south of Yankton as well in that northeastern corner of Nebraska. This is going towards 0Z. Then these storms begin to fluff out. These are not the types of cases where you get supercells continuing well into the overnight hours with a strengthening low-level jet. With these borderline thermodynamics with dew points in the mid to upper 50s here, I do think that these storms are going to die off pretty close to sunset. And this is at 8 p.m. Maybe a reinvigoration of some elevated storms there. But really you just get the formation of an MCS that slides to the southeast across Iowa. But right at 22Z, 5 p.m., 5 to 7 p.m. is kind of the magic hour there across far northeastern Nebraska. This is at 22Z. It has low 60s dew points streaming from southeast to northwest across northwestern Nebraska. Based on the surface map and with those dew points upstream across Sioux City, about 56 to 57 with some mixing. I think that these are probably overblown a bit. These are probably more due to storms and rainfall and evaporation happening. There you can see these storms that fire on the 3-kilometer NAM by 4 p.m. So by 3 to 4 p.m., the 3-kilometer NAM is showing rapid initiation of supercell storms in that target just to the south of Yankton. So this is definitely a pretty easy target up there, far northeastern Nebraska. Not too far from the Coleridge area. But you have about 10 degrees lower dew points on this setup than you did in Coleridge. Although look at this, you got a stream of 61 dew points coming in along this pipe from western Iowa across the Missouri River into far northeastern Nebraska there. Decent pipe of moisture there. We could pick a sounding right in the river valley. Great photograph shape. If we had about 5 to 10 degrees higher dew points, even 5 degrees higher, we'd probably be talking about a big-time tornado threat at least a guerrilla hail threat with southeasterly moving supercell storms across the northeastern corner of Nebraska. But Thursday looks like a more substantial setup across south central Nebraska, far northern Kansas there that I'm keeping a very close eye on. But you still get a lot of cape in here. Probably going to see some big hail producers. Great directional turning. Good speed shear out here. Decent shaped topograph as well. So a 3-kilometer NAM and the HRRR are in quite stark agreement with the development of these storms across far northeastern Nebraska. Let's take a look at the surface map once again. And it does look like you have some low 60s dew points there just to the east of Sioux City. But then you really mix out those dew points. You get about a 56 to 57 out there. You're talking about 25 degree temperature dew point spreads. So this kind of reminds me of that mothership day that I saw a couple years ago out here across northeastern Nebraska. And there were a couple tornado warnings with that as well. But it's going to have to be in this environment. Yankton's got a calm surface wind, so you're really not funneling those easterlies up across the Missouri River Valley maybe as much as the RAP is showing. The RAP is showing that nice tongue of moisture coming in from the Sioux City area, northwest toward Yankton. So I think we're going to be probably verifying about 56 to a 57 dew point, and it does look like, miraculously, that the 3-kilometer NAM and the HRRR both are overdoing these dew points just a bit, underdoing the mixing that has kind of overspread the Sioux City area. Might be overdoing some of the easterlies. There's not really much in the way of a surface map that is supporting easterly winds, funneling moisture up the Missouri River Valley here. It also looks like monsoon season is going to get an early start, maybe as early as next week across the desert southwest after these really hot temperatures down there. Even some wildfires that are beginning to form across portions of Arizona, even into western Colorado as well, Utah. Kind of a sign of things to come, of a very dangerous wildfire season ahead. But here you can see this Cape blob here by 21Z completely mixing out across eastern Nebraska there. Boy, I don't know about this setup. A little more representative of what we're working with here. But still, this pipe of moisture from northwestern Iowa into northeastern Nebraska does seem a little bit overdone on the models. If the HRRR or the 3-kilometer NAM are accurate, then I'd be thinking there's a tornado threat here across northeastern Nebraska. There you can see a tornado sounding. Temperatures are a little bit cool. Some rain cooled air there as well, increasing those dew points just a bit. See if you get any funneling. But those are quite favorable soundings out there. You got this jet streak coming in from the northwest as well. 35 to 40 knots northwesterly flow. Usually these northwesterly flow events will end up producing a tornado or two out there. And there is a slight risk for this event. There you can see that slight risk, and you may want to extend that even a little bit further to the northwest. And it looks like this area right here is kind of that hot spot. If there could be a storm in that environment, then I do think that there is a chance of a tornado out there. If you can get a surface-based storm, especially if after mixing, if these dew points will slosh up a little bit, you can get a nice streamer of a 61 coming in from northwestern Iowa to far northeastern Nebraska. If that happens and you get a nice pipe of moisture coming into northeastern Nebraska, then I think that we are game time in terms of a tornado threat. Hopefully that doesn't happen across far northeastern Nebraska, but I do think there is at least a threat of large hail, strong damaging downdraft winds as well. Here is that latest wrap, just a little bit off center from my face. This is a forecast at 21Z, and you can definitely see a pipe of decent wind shear as well. 200 plus effective helicity, 0 to 1 kilometer shear, increasing as we get a little bit closer to 0Z as well. So I do think that we're going to see some supercell storms develop across northeastern Nebraska today. I do think, though, that Thursday looks like a bigger setup across far north central Kansas into south central Nebraska. Let's take a look, though, at satellite imagery one more time here. And then we'll start looking at Thursday's setup. And I'm going to be activating storm chase mode for that, of course. Starting to see those towers bubble a little bit. Let me show you the satellite imagery. This is from the College of DuPage site here. And you can definitely see some towering cumulus starting to look more favorable right along that warm front, just to the southeast of O'Neill. Right underneath that cirrus, showing the stronger northwest to southeast flow out there. So this is likely where storms are going to initiate. And they should slide southeast into that instability a bit. Let me open this up so I can annotate it. And let's see if we can loop it. Oh, yeah, there we go. And you can really see the wind shear on this satellite imagery. Satellite is such an incredible tool to look at severe weather. You can see this northwesterly flow, northwest to southeast in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere just ripping. And look at those southwesterly winds. Definitely moving in about a 90-degree angle to those upper level winds. So I do think we're going to see the initiation of supercell storms just to the west-southwest of Yankton, just to the south of the Nebraska-South Dakota line. And I do think that those are going to turn off to the east-southeast, maybe the south-southeast as well at about 20 knots. I'm not sure if these are going to migrate from southwest to northeast all the way to Yankton before they mature into supercells and then turn southeast. Or the models so far, 3-kilometer NAM and the HRRR, are keeping these storms on the Nebraska side, far northeastern Nebraska here. But look at that cumulus field just feeding it, and they are starting to tower. Certainly they're just to the south of the Nebraska border. All right, stand by. Pull up some satellite here that we can annotate. And definitely I'm excited about my varsity tutors class coming up. We're doing a rehearsal today at 4 o'clock here in a couple hours. And then the real class is tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I believe. So here is that satellite image. And I am playing that right now, looping. And here is the image. And the towering cumulus are those thicker, more robust looking cumulus. Those are the ones that are growing vertically into the atmosphere, basically right underneath this cirrus. So this cirrus right here, kind of the smoother clouds, see these little smooth feathery clouds? That shows you the jet streak that's right overhead in this northwesterly flow event. 35 to 45 knots there. Smoother appearance, shows the composition is ice crystals. And definitely the fact that you've got these wispy clouds overhead shows you there's some lift in that level too. It's in the favorable quadrant. It's in the entrance region of that jet. But I do think that I expect rapid initiation of supercell storms right here. This is kind of that warm frontal zone. I thought it was a little bit further north on the South Dakota side, but it does appear to be on the Nebraska side right now. So I do think that these towering cumulus that you can see very close to that feathery northwest to southeast oriented jet streak, these are going to mature into supercell storms, turn east, and then eventually southeast into that deeper moisture. And if you can get some low 60s dew points, like a 61 dew point, streaming northwest out of Iowa by about 5 or 6 p.m., and these mature into supercells by that time, then there is a chance by about 5 to 7 p.m. when this moisture could catch up to these storms. And if they're still mature supercell storms with a mesocyclone at that point, then I do think that there is an outside chance of a tornado here across far northeastern Nebraska. So Mike, if you are watching this, definitely want to head west, a little northwest up there, and kind of get into this slot, this zone right here, because towering cumulus are initiating off to the west, and it'll be turning right, southeast, northwesterly flow event, turning into this hotspot zone there across northeastern Nebraska. It does indeed look like the HRRR and the 3-kilometer NAM are overdoing dew points just a bit. I do have a new surface map here for you. There's that new surface map. Still got a 63, 73 over 63 in this environment. Could be a bad ob right there in northwestern Iowa. You can see all the temperatures all around it are well into the 80s, low to mid 80s out there. Got a couple rain showers in Sioux City there with those elevated storms that are moving through. Those are definitely elevated storms moving really fast. But it does look like you're starting to mix out a little bit in eastern Nebraska too. 52, 55, 56 out there in Norfolk. But then up in Yankton you get that 57, but I'm not seeing the materialization of a streamer of 61, 62 dew points coming in here along the Missouri River. So it looks like the 3-kilometer NAM and the HRRR largely are overdoing that pipe of moisture. Maybe a little bit of evaporation with the falling rain. Some wet grounds there that could increase those dew points just a little bit. But overall, it does look like you're going to have about 3 to 4 degrees lower than many of those models are forecasting so far. So I think you're going to have monster mothership supercells, a little bit high based. I think they're going to produce very large hail. Maybe the possibility of a bird fart tornado or a quick noodle just before sunset if that moisture can reach that zone across northeastern Nebraska. So definitely can't rule out a tornado out there, but it doesn't look likely. I think you're going to see some beautiful motherships though. So this is on Tuesday. Big northwesterly flow happening. Got an anticyclone getting compressed a bit over the southwest, but look at this return flow on the backside of this high pressure. That's likely going to ignite a monsoon season. Southwestern Arizona, southeastern California, even eventually up towards southern Utah as well. Probably going to be an early start to monsoon season. Here's Wednesday. Another northwest flow event, maybe some high plains, insane action there across western Nebraska. A little bit of an in-betweener day. Notice how this ridge is sliding a little bit off to the east, and look at this flow. Squeeze play between the trough coming on to California, southwestern U.S. This is going to be a moisture surge event that I think is going to ignite the monsoon later on this week. And then look at this on Thursday. It turns into a trough ejection. So that moisture surge goes all the way through the Rockies and then eventually moves across the Central Plains as 40 to 50 knots of mid-level flow. A pretty robust area. You even get some cyclonic curvature here within the northern branch to break down and squeeze this high pressure into the southern plains. But over the top of it, portions of Kansas, southern Nebraska, right along that Nebraska-Kansas border into southern Nebraska, even the high plains there of Colorado. Looks like a pretty substantial event. And these are your 0 to 3 kilometer EHIs, kind of showing a dry punch there in Kansas, deeper moisture across southern Nebraska, McCook to Hastings to Lincoln area. Definitely could be pretty dangerous, volatile atmosphere. Big Cape, big hodographs as well, supporting pretty strong shear. Approaching 200 0 to 1 kilometer SRH, pushing 400 0 to 3 kilometer shear. Massive Cape too. Look at that Cape here in the 3 kilometer NAM. Southern Nebraska looks absolutely insane on Thursday. Big 40 knot flow there at the mid levels. A lot of directional shear at the low levels. Deep moisture as well. Mid 70s dew points. Look at that big moisture there into southern Nebraska. And this is the 3 kilometer NAM here. Dry punch coming into Kansas as well. And just north of that, you get that moisture wrapping around the north side into southern Nebraska. Mid 70s dew points dominating up there. So Thursday looks like a big day, everybody. That's going to be a big chase day. Classic late June ripper out here. Easterly winds across far south central Nebraska. May have to get Captain Vanover out here for this one, maybe even Bob Menery. We'll do an all hands on deck type situation. Dry punch coming in. Doesn't look too dissimilar from June 20th, although the surface low and it's not vertically stacked up there, but late season, southern Nebraska, Aurora, Nebraska type of an event. So I got the low-level jet. Decent low-level jet up here as well. Subtle 850 low, anchored over Hastings. Just to the east of Hastings, you get kind of an increasing low-level jet there as well. 30 knots or so, due easterly storm motions. But I think that will come together a bit more as we move forward with time. Let's look at the regular NAM, see what that has out there across southeastern Nebraska. I'd like to see that low-level jet be a little bit tighter up to that surface low, but you have such extreme cape across this environment that a lot of times these late season central northern plains events just happen. Monster cape up there in excess of 4,000. Could even have some post-frontal cape up there across southwestern Nebraska that could go nuts. Big dry punch as well. Western Kansas. Regular NAM has that instability axis a bit further south into northern Kansas, but really straddling that Kansas-Nebraska border. A 3-kilometer NAM just a little bit north of that. Very favorable photographs, even though you do have 850 winds of about 25 to 30 knots out there. And as we get a little bit closer to sunset, it's very possible we have an increase in that low-level jet even more. So these beautifully shaped photographs could even get way more elongated as we get a little bit closer toward evening. A lot of cape here in the mid and upper levels of the troposphere there. Plenty of moisture well into the 70s. So this is a classic late season. A lot of times these produce tornado of the year type deal, like Manchester, like Pilger, Nebraska up there, like the Coleridge Day, even Pipestone, Manitoba, you could count in that. Obviously a lot further north. Aurora, Nebraska, June 17. Maxville, Kansas on June 16. All really big days, mid to late June there. June 22nd, 2003. Massive hail as well here across southern Nebraska. Aurora, Nebraska getting that big, giant hail as well. The year before, you had the Brown County, South Dakota supercell. So these late season high dew point events, you could count Ashby into that event last year too. There in western Minnesota as a late season ripper like that. So these big dew points can make things happen. You get easterlies as well. You get east-southeasterly storm motions out there. And big time cape. Usually these produce massive hail and tornadoes as well. And here you've got decent 0 to 1 kilometer shear. 150 plus wrapping here to the north of that dry slot into south central Nebraska. Coming from southeastern Nebraska through northeastern Kansas there. Definitely a very stout instability / shear pipe coming over top that dry punch, working into western Kansas. So this is looking like a day that I will definitely be chasing. This is the day after my varsity tutors class as well. Here's your significant tornado parameter based on the 3-kilometer NAM for you composite index freaks out there. And this is a big volatile environment wrapping north of that clear slot. South central Nebraska there, Thursday. Hastings, Nebraska is definitely the preliminary target unless things change. But I'm going to be activating full-blown chase mode. I'm recharged. I got my ears lowered, even shaved, showered for the first time in 12 days. So I'm ready to go. And here we've got the significant tornado parameter by the 3-kilometer NAM, wrapping that favorable environment to the north of that clear slot on Thursday. Probably going to get the formation of a monster MCS as well. 3-kilometer NAM's a little bit further north with those storms, working some even post-frontal action there in those northeasterlies and the backside of that subtle surface low near McCook, near and to the north of Hastings at 0Z. Nothing fires, and then bam, right there, south central Nebraska, all hell breaks loose with the development of this cluster just to the northeast of that subtle surface low within that pipe of easterlies, wrapping that significant tornado parameter back into central Nebraska there. Near Aurora, north of Aurora, Ord is an area up there. Broken Bow, those locations there in central Nebraska. Need to keep an eye on this, of course. So here is the HRRR, and this only goes out to about 18Z on Thursday, middle of the day on Thursday. But I do suspect this area across south central Nebraska to tighten up. I expect the HRRR to gravitate toward that 3 kilometer NAM. I expect this low-level jet to increase. It does look, though, based on the 850 low appearance at 18Z, that the HRRR is a little bit further south. There'll be a dry punch to the south of that. Decent moisture wrapping to the north side of that subtle 850 low. But yeah, it does look like the 3 kilometer NAM is just a bit further north. It's actually pretty strong. Well, a little bit further north, maybe closer to the Nebraska border. The 3 kilometer NAM 12Z compared to the 18Z HRRR, which is bringing that 850 low just a little bit further south. A couple of counties further south there across northwestern Kansas. Yeah, just to the east of the subtle 850 low that basically migrates 18Z near the I-70 corridor, northwestern Kansas, up to far south central Nebraska. And just to the east of that 850 low, where you get those easterly surface winds, that is definitely the target. And these late season events always happen. Look at that nose of that surface pressure trough here, nosing right into the Nebraska-Kansas border as well, with those easterlies just on the north side of it. At least 10 to 15 knot easterlies up there. So right at the nose of that pressure trough ejection, right near the Kansas-Nebraska border, that looks like the most favorable zone. And this is going to be significant severe weather on Thursday. Even though it does kind of depend on that squeeze play between the high pressure kind of getting shunted down to the southern plains, that trough off the coast of California. You get a bit of a jet streak or a moisture surge there on Wednesday that will manifest as more monsoon across Arizona. And then it ejects across the Rockies and helps to encourage formation of cyclonic flow aloft. You basically get a phasing of the southern stream system. You also get a trough in the northern branch, and that creates a pretty big day on Thursday. Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk out. Probably could justify hatching that, especially across portions of southern, south central Nebraska, even north central Kansas there. Now there's a slight risk out tomorrow for Nebraska, portions of Nebraska. Not much of a tornado threat these next 2 days, but definitely severe weather, northwesterly flow, possibly some mothership supercells out there as well. But it's only June. For me, storm season has just begun out here, so I'm just going to keep on chasing everything. Chasing everything I can, at least within reason. Back to today. The wrap really builds in a lot of convective inhibition there. And really the wrap doesn't have much in the way of surface-based convection as compared to the 3 kilometer NAM and the wrap, or 3 kilometer NAM and the HRRR. But it does look like in the next 2 hours by 22Z, it just try to form storms west to east, south of Yankton, all the way through northwestern Iowa. There's already some elevated convection there now. And I'm starting to see some towers pop to the east of O'Neill, so it looks like we're starting to get storms to fire. Let me pull up Radar Omega here. And yep, it sure is. Storms are happening. Here is the Radar Omega app, and you can already start to see these towers right here, just to the east of O'Neill. So those storms are starting to develop there. That's just to the east of the surface low. The wind out of O'Neill, light and out of the northwest. Dew point of about 51. It's possible there is some better dew points there just to the east of O'Neill along this warm frontal zone. These are the elevated storms here just to the east of Sioux City. It does look like there is some mixing out happening as well behind these elevated storms. So I don't think we're going to get the pipe of those 61, 62 dew points coming out of northwestern Iowa. But we've already got 57 out there, 56. So you're probably talking about 27 to maybe 30 degree temperature dew point spreads. Probably mothership supercells. Eventually closer to sunset, if these supercells continue to evolve in this environment, maybe across this area they could encounter some better moisture a little closer to sunset. And if you do get a 61, 62 out there, you're probably talking about tornado potential. But these are the rapid formation of supercell storms. If you were out there in the field in O'Neill looking out to the east, you would see big towering cumulus starting to grow there and bubble, almost looking like big nuclear bomb blasts going up into the air. But this is the first steps of developing storms here to the northwest of Pierce, Nebraska, and I think that these are going to be supercell storms that will evolve across northeastern Nebraska as we go through evening. Storm Prediction Center has a 0% probability of tornadoes across this zone, but I still think that there is a chance of a tornado or two across northeastern Nebraska. I don't think these storms are going to make it all the way to Iowa, though. I think we're probably talking about more of a Nebraska-centric event here across northeastern Nebraska. So that's what we're looking at here over the next few days, everybody. I do plan on doing a case study on that Chicago metro tornado, southwest of Chicago, east of Naperville, in the Naperville area. I do plan on discussing that as well and doing a case study on that event, breaking down some of the environment, discussing whether it was a supercell storm or a QLCS type of an event. But we got severe weather today. Slight risk tomorrow across western Nebraska, and then a more substantial severe weather risk on Thursday that we will definitely be activating storm chase mode for. So thank you everybody for tuning in to this live weather report. Definitely stay tuned to those watches and warnings, especially if you live in that northeastern corner of Nebraska that we have indicated, especially just on the northwestern side of this slight risk area. The area down into Des Moines and to the west of Des Moines and into central Iowa is more of an overnight event for tonight. But thank you everybody for joining my weather reports this morning. I'm going to be back out in the field on Thursday. If you are interested in my class tomorrow evening for varsity tutors, that'll be 7 p.m. Eastern time, discussing the why of weather, why we have wind. We'll be discussing air masses as well, migration of those air masses, the layers of the atmosphere. We'll be talking a little bit about climate, the general circulation of wind around the globe, from the tropics, subtropics, extratropics, and also the polar regions. And I look forward to breaking down our basics of the why of weather coming up on Wednesday. That's tomorrow evening at about 7 p.m. But storm chase mode is going to be activated. I've already activated it preemptively for Thursday. So stay tuned for additional weather reports and live briefings as we get closer to that event. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. Never stop chasing.